And Tajuddin said, ربما وردت عليك الأنوار فوجدت القلب محشوا بصور الآثار فارتحلت من حيث نزلت. Perhaps lights will descend upon you, but they will find your heart filled with images. And so they leave from where they came. Because your heart can't take them. The light needs a pure, polished heart to reflect. And then he said, فَرِّقْ قَلْبَكْ مِنَ الْأَغْيَارِ يَمْلَأُهُ بِالْمَعَارِفِ وَالْأَسْرَارِ. Empty your heart from otherness, and he will fill your heart with knowledge and secrets. وَمِنْ هَذَا هُوَ السَّمَاعِ عِنْدَ الْقَائِلِينَ بِهِ. And from this is audition for those who say it's permissible. You know, what we saw the other night, hearing poetry and things like that. And Abdul Ghani al-Nablusi, Imam al-Ghazali permitted it with instruments even, some of the great ulama. كان موضوعه زمن السرف لحظ الأنفس لطيب نغمات الغناء في أوقات السرور وشدد الفقهاء في إنكار هذا. In the early period, this was something that the egos, delights of listening to singing, and in the times of happiness. And so the fuqaha were very opposed to this. فقال أسبغ لا يكون الغناء إلا في العرس للنساء خاصة. Asbagh, the great Maliki scholar, said that singing or music should only be in a wedding with women. There's a khilaf. Some said that the men could also have that, but generally it was for the women. Bidaffi or duffi wal kabar. Al-kabar is the two-sided drum. So the daf is like the one-sided, the tambourine type. And then tambur is the tambourine. But the daf, and then the kabar had two sides. So they hit on both sides. So he said having a daf and a kabar, hamalan, leave them to their own devices, whatever they want to do with it, they can do. Aw bi dhikrillah, or they can do dhikr like they do the igaun in Mauritania. They go to the wedding and they sing La ilaha illallah and other things. So they can sing poetry, doesn't have hamalan, doesn't have to be dhikr, or they can do dhikr, aw tasbihan, aw tahmidan, ala ma hada, on those things that are permissible to do. Aw bi rajin khafif, or reciting poetry, nothing with a munkar in it, something bad, or going on for too long of a time where it becomes neglectful. قال ابن رشد لا فرق في هذا بين الرجال والنساء. Ibn Rushd said, we don't differentiate between men and women in this. They both can do it. وقال ابن العربي قول أسبغ لا يكون إلا للنساء ويكره حضوره لذي الهيئة فاسد. Ibn al-Arabi says, as for Asbagh saying only women can do this, or that dhil hay'a, somebody who is a notable, can't do this, he said, we don't accept this. It's facet. It's invalid. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حضر ضرب الدف. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم himself heard a drum being beat. ولا يصح أن يكون ذو الهيئة أعظم من النبي. Nobody is more notable than the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. So this idea that a notable couldn't do that is false. قال عياض ومثل العرس أعياد المسلمين ما أفرحهم. And this goes not only for weddings, but also for gatherings of Muslims, for their Eids, for the times when they gather for happiness. And then he says, like when لقدوم غائب أو لولادة أو ختان, like when somebody's born, you can have the women get together and have these baby showers and things like that, which they should do after, not before. Because you never know what happens. It's not good to do that. It should be done after. Because it's just more depression for the person. They have all these things and something happened in the pregnancy. But if they do those things, and then he said, وَلِيحِفْظُ الصَّبْيَ الْقُرْآنِ, or they memorize the Qur'an, or because some virtuous person's there and they're happy. And then he said, إِذَا سَمِعَ سَامِعُ بِالنَّغَمَاتِ ذِكْرَ عِتَابًا أو وصلا أو هجرا أو قربا أو بعدا أو تلهف على فائت أو تعطش إلى منتظر أو شوق إلى وارد أو طمع أو يأس أو وحشة أو استئناس أو وفاء بعهد أو نقض عهد أو خوف فراق أو فرح بوصال أو غير ذلك مما يشتمل عليه لفظ السماع فلا بد أن يوافق بعضها حال السامع في مطلبه. So when you're listening to the audition, they recite different things. So you're going to hear blame, you're going to hear meeting with or somebody who left, or nearness and farness, or a desire for something that's lost, or a thirst to see something you're waiting for, or a desire for somebody to come, or some covetousness, or yes, despair, or wahsha, loneliness, or isti'nas, intimacy, or wafa'an bi'ahad, or somebody who fulfills his oath, or somebody who breaks his oath, or afraid of being separated from somebody, or joy over reconnecting with somebody, and other things. So these are all the things that are going to be in the poetry. So he's saying something is going to affect the person, because everybody's in different states. And that's the purpose of sama' is to affect the heart. فَيَجْرِي ذَلِكَ مَجْرَ الْقَدَّاحِ الَّذِي يُوَرِّي زِنَادَ قَلْبِهِ. So the likeness of this is like a flint that strikes and ignites the heart. That's what sama' is supposed to do. فيكون له مجال رحب في تنزيل الألفاظ على أحواله فإن كان الغالب على السامع هوا محرما فيهيجه هذا السماع إلى السعي في الحرام. But if the person is not well and he's got haram desires, then the sama' can actually encourage him to do the haram and go to the haram. Or if he has permissible desires, it might encourage him to do that. Or affect him in desiring something, or fearing losing something, or hoping to meet. All of these things can happen, but sama' is mubah. Whatever the sami', the one listening, happens to him is another thing, because those are his states. And then, so there's two things. You can get لذة نفسه وتعلق بأوصاف ربه ولكن في هذا الحال نقص من جهة ما فيه من حظ نفسه. So you can get some pleasure from it, like people have pleasure from music, or you can get something that causes you to connect with the attributes of your Lord. And he said, but there's still deficiency in it because the nafs has a portion of it. So it's not like sama' was something that they were saying was a great thing. But if that's how people feel closer to God, it's helpful. قالوا في هذا من عرف ما يطلب هان عليه ما يبذل. And it's been said, whoever knows what they're searching for, it's insignificant, whatever they expend for it. So when you know what you want, you're willing to give up things for that goal. وقد تبين بهذا أن السماع قط ما هو مقصود لا عند الصوفية ولا عند الفقهاء. But it should be clear to you, sama' is not some end goal, neither with the Sufis or with the fuqaha. Then we ask, هل هو وسيلة? Is it a means? كثير من العلماء ينكرون أن يكون وسيلة لجد وجميع الصوفية وكثير من العلماء بأحكام الله يتحملون عهدة أنه وسيلة. Many of the ulama reject it, that it's a means to being serious in your religion. All of the Sufis and also many of the ulama of the ahkam of Allah, they bear responsibility for it as a means. قال القشيري في رسالته إن الرذباري كان أعلم الناس بالطريقة من أصحاب الجنيد. Imam al-Qushayri mentions in his risala that Rudhabari was one of the most learned people of the path of Imam Junaid's companions. وقال ليتنا تخلصنا من هذا السماع رأسا برأس. Would that we could get rid of this sama' without distinction. In other words, this type of sama' is good, this type's not. Just, would that we didn't do it at all. وقال ابن سبكي نعتقد أن طريق الجنيد وصحبه طريق مقوم والجنيد يقول السماع فتنة لمن طلبه. We believe that the path of Junaid and his companions is a sound, upright path. And Imam al-Junaid said, sama', this dhikr with singing and instruments, inshad, the type of things that a lot of people do. He said it's a fitna for people who seek it out. وَرَاحَةٌ لِمَنْ صَادَفَهُ. But it's a nice thing if you just happen upon it. It's not something you went looking for. وَحَرَّمُوا حُضُورُهُ عَلَى الْعَوَامِ. Some of them prohibited that common people should go. فإن السماع بالنغمات يتلذذ به الفاسق والسفيه. Because they can have a bad effect on the fasiq and the profligate and the foolish ones. والطفل والصغير and small children. ومن قصر التوسل به مع هؤلاء السامعين له بحظ نفس لا يخفى ما فيه. And those who are trying to get some portion of listening to it, it shouldn't be hidden that, their nafs has a portion of that. فَإِنْ قَصَدَ مُجَرَّدَ السَّمَاعِ لَا لِمَعْنٍ آخَرْ تَبَرَّأْ مِنْهُ الْعُلَمَاء. If he just wants to hear it as a musical thing, then the ulama have nothing to do with that. Tabarra, they're free of that, because it's not. In other words, there's a khilaf, but in that there's no khilaf. All of the ulama are against that. Imam al-Tariq al-Junayd لقوله طارب السمع مجردا هو من المفتونين. Seeking audition just on its own without any purpose from it, these are people that are in fitna. Allahumma in kana kama qala al-Junayd. Illa in kana al-amma al-ghawgha. So as for the ghawgha, and now we're going to get to the last maqams. 3 more. Now we're in the zalimun li nafsi. So they're very short, but very interesting. So he says, as for the riffraff, la hisbata alayhim, don't do any hisba with them. Just leave them alone. وهذا هو المقام الثالث. مقام الغوغاء الذين ليس لهم همة في تحل ولا تخل حسب هؤلاء أن يقال لهم تحفظوا من الأوتار والمزامير وما عليكم فيه حسبة. As for the maqam of the rabble, those who have no himma, they have no aspirations in either adorning themselves with virtue or getting rid of their vice. It's enough for these people just to say to them, watch out from those musical instruments you're listening to, even though we're not going to condemn you. In other words, don't lose your prayer. Watch out. All this stuff, all this, all your games that you're playing, your little, what do they call them? Those video centers, PlayStations, and then you lose all your prayer.